All's fair in love and war. Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 rules the Love is Blind cast has to follow. For this list, we'll be looking at the ins and outs of how this Netflix reality show actually works.
Will you say I do to the person that you've chosen right here, sight unseen?
Number 10. Producers arrange the dates. Considering that the contestants don't have any way to contact each other outside the pods, they have to rely on the producers to make the dates happen.
So when am I gonna see you again?
Soon as possible.
So after the initial meetings, the producers had to act as a go-between to see who wanted to have further dates with each other. But the players actually had a lot of control over how their dates went.
Is it true that you still feel the same way you felt last night about me?
I don't know.
They were able to make requests for food, drinks, and even instruments to make their date feel as authentic as possible, within the confines of the show, of course. Number 9. Everyone had to live in Atlanta.
And I want to move to California, or I want to move back to Chicago, and that's when your parents would be 75 years old. And you've told me that you want to take care of them. So how does that
You know what's awesome is
then
that
come into play?
Well, this one actually makes a lot of sense. While they were on their pod dates, we saw some couples, like Mark and Jessica, bonding about their hometowns. But in fact, everyone involved in the show was currently living in or near Atlanta, Georgia.
Where are you from?
I'm from Illinois.
Me too. What part?
You're kidding! I'm from 2 hours west of Chicago. Go Cubbies!
I was about to say, oh my God, she's a Cubs fan.
Huge Cubs fan!
That's because the producers wanted to give the couples a shot at success and didn't want to force anyone to move across the country after getting married. Of course, this made filming easier as well because they didn't have to send crews to homes that were spread apart. Number 8. They didn't go home after Mexico. After the couples came out of the pods and decided to get engaged, they were whisked away to a resort in Mexico for some time to get to know one another.
When you go back home? Well, the realities of the material world, your looks, your race, your age, your background affect the way you feel about each other. How are you guys going to integrate your lives?
After that, though, it was time to try things out in the real world.
Considering you're an organized mess, I'm gonna make you organized without the mess.
But in fact, it wasn't quite as real as it could have been. The couples didn't move into one of their respective apartments, but rather lived in a new space together. This made sense because the producers wanted to give them a clean slate to start their lives together on.
Cheers. To a very cute and thoughtful date.
Number 7. They could propose at any time.
I haven't really gotten any married.
Really? You wanna get married?
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool.
That was super easy. I guess we can go now.
Something that might come as a surprise to viewers is the fact that no one was actually forced to propose on the show. This was different from other dating programs, where a marriage is necessary at the end.
I know who I want to be my future husband. I can't believe it. It's only been 5 days. Oh my God, I've had meals in my refrigerator for longer than that.
Considering how many guys got down on one knee in the early episodes, it would have been easy to think that it was a requirement. But in fact, they had flexibility to propose if they chose to at any point in the first 10 days of the experiment, and weren't confined to doing it at a specific time.
I'm going to go ahead and get down on my knee. And I want to ask you, Kelly Marie, will you marry me?
Number 6. The show paid for a portion of the weddings.
She's so pretty.
We tend to fantasize our fairy tale weddings and our fairy tale Prince Charming, you know.
The entire show was leading up to the couples getting married, but many wondered who exactly was putting on these quickie weddings. Considering the couples had just met, they didn't exactly have the time to plan their nuptials that the average couple would. So, while the show helped out and provided some fundings for the weddings, they didn't pay for the entire thing.
The alterations themselves are $850, which puts me at least like $400 over budget.
The thinking behind this was that they were real weddings, and the couple should be able to have some control over what they're like, while spending as much as they want.
To decide if love is blind, and whether or not to face life together as husband and wife.
Number 5. They were sent home if they didn't fall in love.
Every girl grows up waiting for their Prince Charming, and I want to make sure that this is it, that this is the one, and I'm willing to wait for it.
Viewers may have noticed that in the first episode of the show, there were lots of people that we saw on screen who seemingly were never heard from again. We saw them going on their initial dates, and then their stories abruptly ended, with the focus being left on just a few couples.
I just feel like I'd rather just walk away from this. This is crazy. So many people are gonna get hurt in this, you know?
This was very much intentional, and in fact, many participants were sent home if they didn't make a strong connection with anyone.
It's not you, Elsie.
I literally can't even cry anymore about this.
I know.
You know, you just don't have any regard for what you're doing to people. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done this to me.
So while it may have looked like pretty much everyone involved got engaged, the producers actually focused on the couples who were most successful. Number 4, they can describe their looks. If you've seen the show, you'll know that the entire premise is based on the fact that the participants have to see if they can form connections without seeing each other.
If I had to guess, I'd say you're African American.
This is our first talk and you're already asking me what I look like? You're missing the whole point.
Their first interactions take place in the pods, and they have to make the decision to be together, sight unseen. But there is a slight loophole. There's nothing preventing them from describing their looks to one another.
She and I didn't share any descriptions of each other. I can just tell that she's such a gentle person.
They can compare themselves to famous people that they look like, or just give a general idea, and it's not against the rules. Now, how accurate will the descriptions be? Who knows?
She's such a spiritual and loving, kind soul that I don't think she was looking for somebody for looks. She's touched me without touching me.
Number 3, there were no phones or social media.
I don't have my phone, so no one knows where I am. No one knows I'm in Mexico.
This is probably an obvious one, but the contestants weren't allowed any contact with the outside world during the first part of the experiment, so that means that phones were definitely not permitted.
We're still totally without outside influence, no social media, no devices whatsoever.
They also didn't have other forms of modern entertainment like TVs or the internet. They were allowed to have alone time and were allowed to read, but they were encouraged to discuss their development with the other participants. This was likely also a way to prevent figuring out how to find the object of their affection online.
You're on Instagram, you're on social media, and you're like this, talking to me. Yeah.
I get alerts. People tell me, hey.
You know how many times I've posted on social media since I've been back? Not once. You know how many times I've
posted? That's your life.
I know. So
that's
the thing
your
is,
social media life.
I know, but you're making it like I'm on my phone a lot. I'm on my phone this high of a percentage compared to you. So don't make it about social media. Like when I go to check my phone or I go to pause it, it's not.
Being on my phone and being on social media are two completely different things.
Number 2, they slept in trailers. During the first phase of the experiment, we saw the guys and girls hanging out in common areas together while they weren't in the pods. But you may have noticed that we never actually saw their sleeping quarters.
I had a good night's sleep. I'm ready to date, and it's time to start narrowing it down.
Well, that might be because they weren't exactly aesthetically pleasing. According to one participant, Kenny, the cast spent their nights in trailers with correctional facility beds. Yikes. The explanation was that the producers wanted the people involved to be without their creature comforts. Sounds like it could have been a budgetary thing, though. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, they had to keep their relationships secret.
What are you escaping from?
Reality.
Okay, why?
Because I'm here and I'm enjoying this. When you go on vacation, that's to escape your everyday routines.
Okay, well, you're not understanding what I'm trying to tell you, so.
Love is Blind dropped on Netflix at the beginning of 2020, but it actually began filming all the way back in 2018.
Because it was a year and a half ago that this was, I didn't know it was that long ago that it was shot. So y'all have been married for a year and a half.
A whole year and a half.
You've been married for a year and a half.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
That means that the couples were sworn to secrecy and couldn't be open about their relationships, regardless of how they turned out. They weren't even allowed to tell their friends and families about their engagements until they returned home from Mexico, which explains how surprised they were.
How did you guys got together?
Well?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
What?
in 2 weeks he's engaged.
But it must have been even worse to go a whole year without letting the world know how the experiment went. Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.